It's two shows in one, the Superhero Comic-Con and Cars Show, August 4th through the 7th, in San Antonio at the Freeman Expo Hall, presented by Thomas J. Henry. It's a Comic-Con with stars like Ewan McGregor, Haley Atwell, Simu Liu, Giancarlo Esposito, wrestling superstar Hulk Hogan, Arrow's Stephen Amell, Dave Bautista, and many more. Plus a massive Hollywood car show with 45 awesome cars like Batmobiles and Transformers Optimus Prime. Tickets available at pmxevents.com.
All right, AP. We just heard Ariel's take on the South Plains region. So, of course, we just, I guess, have to give you our take on teams and players and stonks and whatever's coming up next. But let's go ahead and start off with this. There are, like we mentioned earlier, 64 teams in the South Plains region. Can you guess? I already said it, but 26 of them being six-man programs. That's literally a third of the region. That's why I asked that question, because I was like, I wonder what she thinks of six-man football, because it's so prominent out there in the South Plains region.
Yeah.
And she, being from New Jersey, probably had never even heard of six-man football or even how the game is actually played in difference to the higher classification. So that's why I was really curious.
Yeah, then you
on how
get
she
thrown
felt
in
about
the
it.
hub of it, which the hub city, but like the hub
Literally.
city is literally waving the six-man banner.
Right, absolutely. But yeah, literally a third of that region is six-man football. And like we said earlier, only two ranked teams out there in the six-man ranks. Happy and Whit Harrell. That's why I heard her say it, but I just always butcher it. So instead of showing you the ranked teams in the region, we went ahead and calculated the highest computer-rated teams in each classification. So let's go ahead and start off with the highest classification out there, which is 6A, the only actually 6A team in the area in Wolfforth Friendship. The Tigers 5-1 on the season. Moving on down to 5A Division 1, you got the Lubbock Cooper Pirates. We'll talk more about them later, but they're having a fantastic season. 5-1 to go. Moving on down to 5A Division 2, we got the Plainview Bulldogs. They are 2-4 on this season. Let's go ahead and go into the 4A ranks. 4A Division 1. You heard Ariel mention it. Lubbock Estacado. The Matadors, 3-3 on the season. They are actually the only team in 4A Division 1 out there. Moving on down to 4A Division 2, also the only 4A Division 2 out there. The Levelland Lobos, shout out Matt Wilson.
Yeah.
They are 1-6 on the season, but the only 4A Division 2 team out there. Let's move on down to 3A. We've got the Shallow Water Mustangs. They're having a pretty good season. They check in at 5-1 on the year. Staying in 3A, let's move on to 3A Division 2, the Abernathy Antelopes. I love that. Mm-hmm. Abernathy Antelopes. That's really cool.
Have you seen a picture of the antelope
I haven't.
costume? It's fantastic.
I think we've talked about this before. I just don't
we
remember
always do,
seeing it.
I think we've done some mascot challenges. I've
yeah,
seen
probably so.
I want to say I've seen the antelope in person.
I feel like maybe I have too. Did we go to a game together or something?
No.
An Abernathy game? Maybe not, but I feel like I've seen pictures of it, and it's pretty cool.
That's what it was.
Oh,
Post is also the
Antelopes.
antelopes. My apologies to our good friends in Abernathy. I got my antelopes confused.
That's not something you say every
Sometimes
day.
you get your lopes confused, and there's just not.
There's just not much you can do about
Happy
it.
Thursday.
Happy Thursday indeed. Moving on down to 2A Division 1, we've got Farwall. The Steers having a really good season as well. They are 5-1. And the last division in the 2A ranks, 2A Division 2, New Home Leopards check in. They are 5-1 as well on the season.
That was a really solid little mascot run that we went through there.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, you got the Antelopes, the Steers, and the Leopards.
That's good.
That is good.
Leopards is a good big cat because there's a lot of teams that have big cat mascots.
Yeah.
But I would say leopards are probably the least used large feline.
The leopards are the least used. I like it.
Thank you.
Keep it coming.
With your mascot fun facts of the day.
I love it. You know, we're big mascot gurus over here. But anyways, let's round it all out. We've talked about them before. The six-man football is alive and well in the South Plains. Checking in for 1A Division 1, the highest computer-rated team, also ranked number 6 In the Class 1A rankings, the Happy Cowboys coming in at 5-1. They're only lost to Westbrook. We'll talk more about them later. And to round it all out, 1A Division 2, number 8, checking in at number 8, the With Carroll Panthers, checking in at 6-1. So there you go. The highest computer-rated teams in the South Plains region. Like we said, only 2 ranked teams in Happy and With Carroll, number 6 and number 8. All right. You're going to keep hearing my voice because it's time for players to watch in the South Plains region.
Concierge of vibes.
Concierge of vibes. And whoa, we got 7 this week.
Yeah, there's some big ones.
We got some big names. But let's go ahead and start off in the 6A ranks. Wolfforth Friendship offensive lineman Isaiah Kimma. And if you remember back to Ariel's interview, she said there is a lot of offensive linemen, good offensive line play and defensive line play.
Big old West Texas boys.
Absolutely. Big old West Texas boys. Lots of offensive line play in the South Plains region. He stands at 6'4" and weighs 300 pounds. He's a big boy, like you just said. He lines up at right guard and really has good athleticism while having the ability to come off the ball pretty quickly. He's actually currently not committed to play anywhere at the next level, but he holds offers from Arizona, Arizona State, BYU, Cal, and of course others. But this dude is definitely good enough to start at the Power 5 level, maybe, after he redshirts or something like that. But you'll definitely see him playing at the Power 5 level here in a couple years. Yeah,
he's one of those two that we said it a lot, but it really is true. When you get up to being that size, especially at the high school level, it's one thing when you hear 6'4", 300 pounds and you're on a very diet regimented college workout program. As much as these kids can be in shape, their bodies are still growing, they're still changing, they're trying to figure out how to move and work their feet. He's got really impressive footwork is what I always enjoy watching.
Absolutely. And quick story too, I had a friend in high school who was one of our offensive linemen. He actually committed to play at Texas State, and he was about 300 pounds coming out of high school, but man, he put on 25, 50 pounds or something when he got to college just because of the regimen they had them on.
And a lot of times too, sometimes guys like that, depending on, now he's fairly muscular, but a lot of the guys, sometimes they'll even they'll gain weight, but they look so much slimmer by the time they get to college because they've taken teenage fat weight and changed it into muscle, which is technically heavier, but they look a lot more athletic almost.
Absolutely. That describes him right there. Moving on down to Lubbock Coronado, quarterback Jet Carroll. I love that name. Jet.
Oh, unbelievable cool quarterback name.
And he's fast too, so it's perfect. Man, this kid has an arm on him. He can sling it downfield while on the run as well. He's passed for 1,388 yards and 12 touchdowns this season. And what I like really a lot about him too, he's not afraid to take off and use his legs either. 201 rushing yards off 23 carries and 4 touchdowns for Jet Carroll this season. And he looks like a quarterback that has really good decision making too. I'm sure I'm sure coach out there, Coach Mann's got a couple of design runs for him too, but it looks like if that play starts to fall apart, that pass play, he has the ability to use his legs and make something out of nothing.
Yeah, this kid's special. He really is. I think, we've talked hell, you go back to the Tech game against Oklahoma State last week, and we saw a quarterback like Baron Morton. He was an Eastland guy, so a little bit different, kind of more panhandle area. But you start looking at the really good quarterbacks that have come out of that part of the world, and I think Jet Carroll is right there. And their season is unfortunate so far. They're 3-4 plays away from having a completely opposite record.
Yes.
At a certain point, you have to own up to that, and I know Coach Mann absolutely will, but I do feel bad for Jet Carroll because he really is. He's a difference maker, but they have got to figure out a way to win those close ones.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. If you look at Lubbock Coronado's record, it certainly doesn't indicate the kind of team and that they are. And we had Coach Mann in here last week to do a watch along, and he even said, he was like, man, my kids play with heart. That record does not indicate the kind of team that we are.
You lose to Midland by 6, you lose by 4, you lose to Wichita Fall Riders by 4, which was an insane last play of the game thing. Abilene Cooper only by 5, Lubbock Cooper by 1. And they have all come down to either a crazy field goal attempt or a crazy bobbed 50-yard bomb in that Rider game. Like, it's been wild. But eventually, winning is the name of the game.
Absolutely. Yep. And like you said, Coach Mann has owned up to that. So, good team out there. Let's head on over to Idalou, wide receiver and defensive back, Malachi Briscoe. Also a really cool, a lot of cool names out here. I like it. I'm liking the vibe out there.
Good vibes.
Yeah, good vibes all around. He stands at 6 foot and weighs 160 pounds. This guy is just an all-out athlete. And let me tell you, when the first highlight I watched of this guy on his huddle, because yes, I do watch huddle, he takes the ball, right? Takes off. He hurdles the defender to get the first down. Literally hurdles. And I'm like, okay, interesting. So this guy's an athlete, right? So I pull up, a little bit more of his stats and see if he's involved in any other sports on campus. And would you believe it or not, he's a long jumper. So if you're listening to this and you're an athlete, you need to run track. You need to at least be involved in track at some point, because I am sure that if that kid did not participate in long jumping, he wouldn't have hurdled that defender. So
he's a baseball kid too, but the long jump, he's like legitimately good at long jump. Like, it's not just he does long jump, like he's an really actual competitor in long jump.
He's just one of those kids that you just want on the field at all times, because his physicality on the field is just really, really tough to match, and he's probably going to beat you at any point in the game. Moving down, let me take a breath. We're halfway done. New deal running back and defensive lineman Kendrick Nelson. He's labeled as a fullback on Huddle, but we'll just put him as a generic running back on here. He checks in at 6'2", 190 pounds, so he's got really, really, really good size, not only for a 2A team, but also just as like a fullback in general. Like, it's pretty impressive. He's rushed for 478 yards and 4 touchdowns so far this season. And on the defensive side, he's made 20 tackles. He's had 1 sack, and also add 1 fumble recovery to that list. But I think that Kendrick Nelson fits in really well with this New Deal team, because they just emphasize their size so much, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Oh, yeah. They want to absolutely drive the ball just completely past you, through you, and if you like more football or fullbacks in football, here's your guy.
Yeah. When you look at the size on that offensive side for New Deal, they all are averaging at least 6 foot. So it's the size on that team is pretty impressive. Moving on down, let's talk about new home quarterback, Caleb Cook. And if you don't know anything about New Home, this team is pointsy. They average about 40 points a game, which is a lot. And this guy, Caleb Cook, has a lot to do with that. Last season, he threw for 2,500 yards and 31 touchdowns. That's a lot. No mathematician, but those are pretty good stats. And this year, he's been just as good, if not even better. He was actually named the Week 5 Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week, who threw for, get this, in one single game, 546 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. And no, that's not his season stats. That's a single game.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I recognize that name from Mr. Texas Football. And obviously, when we're reading through those stats, we're like, oh, that's crazy. Oh, that's crazy.
Right.
And then you get to that one, and especially with the no picks, it's like, goodness, child.
And I didn't see like the 0 picks on that stat line, and I was like, man, that's impressive though. Like, we need to add that in there, because like, to throw 8 touchdowns with 0 interceptions.
Yeah,
like,
and for 500 yards. I mean, you're not missing, know?
Right. That dude can sling it downfield 50, 60 plus yards and just find his receivers at ease. Obviously, you can tell that by those stats right there. 0 interceptions. Great kid. Fantastic player. All right, let's go down to the 6-man ranks. Let's talk about Happy tied in and defensive lineman Chitin Johnson. Talk about good size. Johnson checks in at 6'1", 210 pounds. That's big.
Yeah.
Put this kid on the field at all times and don't think twice about it. Hear me out. He adds size and depth in the trenches. And in Happy's 58-6 win against McLean last week, Johnson had 2 touchdown receptions and a pick 6. That's pretty good. And get this, he also did that same exact thing. He replicated that stat line last week, or 2 weeks ago, in their game against Lubbock Home School Christian. And like like I said, this kid is really, really good. He's played a major role in the success of this Happy program this season. And I know that we talk about this all the time on here, but when you've got a kid like Chitin Johnson, this good, this big, this kid with such ball awareness at this level, at the 6-man ranks, your success skyrockets.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the number 6 ranked team in the Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Associated Press rankings in 1A Division I. And, I mean, you look at Region 1, and I don't see any reason that Happy shouldn't be the favorites as of right now. And when Chitin Johnson is they've got quite a few good players, but Chitin Johnson is here we go. He's the mitochondria of this Happy team. But yeah, the Cowboys, they really do. I think they are looking very, very dangerous right now, and that'll lead to some exciting games, especially when you start taking a look at who they could be facing if they made it to the state semifinal to take on any of the teams in that crazy region too. I mean, they've got a good shot.
Right. Yeah, and we'll little sneak peek. They're in our stonks. So stick around to hear more about our Happy Cowboys. To round it all out, let's talk about Abernathy athlete Anthony White. Say that 5 times fast.
No kidding.
Abernathy athlete Anthony White.
And we're going to add the word asterisk
by it. He's actually, we put him down there at the end and put him with an asterisk because he hasn't actually played this season due to injury. He sustained a basketball injury this past basketball season, but we had to mention him on here because he's got to be the best 3A level athlete in the South Plains. He's 6 foot, 180 pounds, 3-star athlete who plays on both sides of the ball. He plays at wide receiver and safety as well. His numbers last year were, they were just incredible. I can only imagine what they would have been this season.
Is he a senior this year? Do we know?
Yes, he is. He's a senior, so that sucks that he has to miss his senior season, but he's already got offers to a couple places, so he should be good to go. I'll just kind of round out with his offensive stats. 1,301 yards, 19 total touchdowns. On the defensive side, he had 61 total tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, and 5 interceptions. He's just one of those athletes that just got an eye for the ball and a guy that you just need to watch.
I mean, anytime that a 6-man player gets any sort of offers from college, is that they're a really good player, because that's them saying, hey, we'll give you money to come play a game that you're not used to playing. You're going to be coming and playing 11-man ball. That's different. That just means that they know that they're an actual really good football-minded player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally true. Abernathy, of course. We don't have them up there. I believe, they check in at the 3A Division II computer rated. Yes.
Duh.
No, but you're right though. You're right. When you see kids at the 6-man level get offers like that. But yeah, this kid, he's really, really good. He's got offers from already Mississippi State, Texas Tech, Vanderbilt, UTSA, and of course a lot more than that. But
so smart too.
Very smart. Yeah. So we just had to mention him because he's been out this season, hasn't been able to play, but probably the best 3A player that we've got, or that they've got out there. So there you go. That was a mouthful. A lot of players to watch in the South Plains region. A lot of talent out there, a lot of good offensive and defensive line to play, but let me take a breath here. Now that we've got the computer rated teams and the players to watch out of the way, I think it's time for Stonks.
Always try your hand of Stonks.
Yeah.
Stonks
are great, aren't they?
My stonks are down today. My stonks are plummeting. Abernathy is not a 6-man program, dummy.
No, we've been talking about this all day. Like, we're tired. Our stonks are actually both down. But let me tell you whose stonks are probably not down.
Yeah.
Lubbock Cooper. May I introduce you to the 5-1 Lubbock Cooper Pirates, the state semifinalists from last year in the 5A Division II ranks. AP, should we buy stocks in this team or not?
Yes, I think so. I think if you want to take a look at District 2 5A Division 1, then you say yes. I think that the district championship game, if things stay, and this is a district that we've talked a lot about too, that when we did the Panhandle, we talked about before district play started, there was a lot of opportunities for teams to go. It's a really deep district. I would say that it dies off at the very bottom, but the teams that are really vying for those playoff spots, it gets really deep. I'm pretty sure if things stick close now that on the 10th week of the season, October 28th, I think the district championship will be decided between them and Amarillo Tascosa. So when you're looking at the district side of this, yes, I think that they can. Now, when you transition over into playoffs, that's when things start to look a little bit different for Cooper than they have in the past, because you'll remember in realignment, Cooper ended up going up to 5A Division I this year. They made the state semifinal run last year. You'll remember they lost in the I believe it was the state they lost in the state semifinals to South Oak Cliff, the eventual 5A Division II state champions. So in years past, I mean, you get past it when they were in 5A Division II, you look at Region 1 and you had probably a Grapevine to beat, or maybe, I mean, Colleyville Heritage wasn't even in that point, but you're looking around and Region 1 is a lot more open. You look at Region 1 of 5A Division 1 this year, and that's where things start to get dicey, because while I think that they will win their district or have a really good shot to win it against Tascosa, you look at District 1, it's a lot of the El Paso schools who I would say aren't in those top tier El Paso schools. Those are in different classifications. You look at District 4 and you say, okay, Lake Belton has been looking really, really good as a newer UIL team. And then after that, it's like, okay, I wouldn't say Red Oak is what they were usually at, but it is District 3 where things get incredibly dicey, and this is where I think the Stonks are more down this year when it comes to the outlook, because you have 3 5A Division 1, which is Denton Ryan, Aledo, and Burleson Centennial. And we talked about it earlier when we did the Texan Live games to watch. Most of the time you'd be going, oh, Ryan and Aledo, there's no way. May I interest you in Burleson Centennial? We'll figure out a lot about how that'll all shake out this week, because if Burleson was to beat Aledo, they would be the winners of that district. If they don't, then we're looking at a potential 3-way tie, because Ryan and Aledo will play each other the next week. So a crazy 3-week stretch in that, but district-wise, I think Stonks are good. I think Lubbock Cooper is a very good team. I think they should be able to go out and really compete with Tascosa. Looking at the playoffs, their road moving up to 5A Division I got significantly more difficult.
Well, even if they do come out as the Region 1 champions, they will probably have to face we're assuming, the Region 2 champions, which will be Longview, I would assume. And so that right there, Longview looks like a serious team. So Stonks, maybe not so high in the playoff scope of things, but definitely very high in the district.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. This was a team, too, that they have pedigree in making it very far in the playoffs, so they understand the grind of week in and week out, having to really show up. But, man, when you start doing travel, when you start calculating travel along with going through a possibility of Centennial or Aledo or Ryan or Longview to even get to AT&T Stadium, that is a mountain to climb.
Right. All right, let's go ahead and round this show. I guess the Stonks thing, whatever you want to call it, out with the Happy Cowboys. We've mentioned them a lot already, checking in at number 6 in the 6-man rankings across the nation. And I'm going to say it, I think Stonks are up for Happy. Especially, I think, and it's hard. I think that just like Lubbock Cooper, I think in the district thing inside of things, I think the Stonks are up and Happy. However, I think in the playoff scope of things, I think Stonks are about even. And we'll mention that why in a second. But let me tell you why I'm so high on Happy. And it's because we've already mentioned him, Chitin Johnson, that tight end defensive lineman. We just mentioned it. I think that when you've got a player that is so good and so big in that level of football, I think that your chances of success skyrocket because he can do everything. You know, you're adding depth, you're adding size to that line, which is honestly, it really comes, if you've got a good offensive line, you've got a good defensive line, you've got good play in the trenches, especially at that level, that's good. That's a really good thing. You're probably going to out-physical a lot of those teams down there. They're 5-1 on the season. Of course, their only loss so far coming from Westbrook. And I think that if you look at the rest of their district schedule, it's a little tough. It says next week they've got Lubbock Kingdom Prep. They're pretty good. And the week after that, they've got the Nazareth Swifts, who are also 6-1 on this season. So I think district-wise, I think that they could win out in the rest of the district. But when you look at the playoff scope of things, that's where it gets a little interesting, because they'll probably meet up with Westbrook once again. And if I remember correctly, that score to the Westbrook and Happy game earlier on this season, I think it was Happy's first game of the season. It wasn't even close.
Right. Yeah, I would say that, I mean, all due respect to Nazareth and their 6-0 record, they've looked great. I think Happy is a better team than them. I think that Happy can run their district, and then I think when you look at Region 1, I don't see anyone that can really stop them. Now, Spur has looked really good this year, so that could be a possible regional final. Well, they might play them before then, but I think that Spur is probably, out of District 4, their most likely competitor in that region. But then, when you get into that state semifinal, so it depends on, if you want to look at Stonks as how deep you make it in the playoffs, then the Stonks are really high.
Right.
If you want to look at Stonks based off of solely getting to AT&T Stadium, you are going to either end up facing off against a Westbrook, against a Rankin. I would even throw Garden City in there. There's a lot of unbelievable talent out of Region 2 that they'll be battle tested, but everything would be riding on that state semifinal game again, which if it's Westbrook and they've already played them once, maybe that bodes out well for them, and
right. I mean, it's hard to beat a good team twice. We say it all the time, because a lot of these good teams do end up meeting other good teams again, especially in these really good districts. So it's not impossible. And Westbrook isn't unbeatable. They've already lost a game this season. So definitely they've got some flaws, but really good teams there down in the South Plains region. A lot of good 6-man football, but
thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.